Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show. Real talk, big opinions, and fearless conversations. From the front lines of politics to the latest in pop culture. From breaking sports headlines to the stories that move the world. Nothing's off limits, and nobody's holding back. Arrington Gavin is here to break it down, build it up, and keep it all the way real. So turn it up, lean in, and let's get into it. This is the Arrington Gavin Show.
What is happening, ladies and gents? Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the biggest stories of the day, whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz. Look, we're diving deep and keeping it real, so do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and get ready to join the conversation. On today's conversation, my friends, I'm honored to have on Mr. Hendrell Remus. He is the former chairman for the Tennessee Democratic Party. He was the first black chair elected in the year 2021. He served that position for I want to say 4 years, close to almost 5 years. He is since then continues to be very involved on the political scene. He's has a company called Get Social. He's the chief executive officer of Get Social. He also has a podcast out called Politics Unfiltered, which is an awesome podcast. I highly recommend to subscribe to the channel, follow it on all podcast platforms. It's needed in this space, right? It's needed to, have that, get that insight from those who have been very involved, especially in the Democratic Party. Because, here on this program, I've shared my frustrations with the Democratic Party, just the way the strategy is going and this and that and the other. Trust me, I'm a back and forth kind of guy. I got loads of stuff I can say about the right, but I'm frustrated with the left because I feel as though it's like, dude, it's right there. Like, all you gotta do is nope. And then on top of that, you see the disconnect within the parties. And then we see this happening really in both parties, but we're seeing it more notably in the on the left, and the disconnect that they have between the moderates and progressives and whatnot. And it's just like, folks are tired. We can continue to go back on the stats where, hey, over 64% of folks are independent voters. They won't want to see a Republican or a Democrat. But it's like sometimes it gets old listening to stats like that, because at the end of the day, if they lean more left, guess what? They're going to vote Democrat. If they lean more right, they're going to vote Republican. So is it really like, an avenue for the middle? Again, I'm excited to have on Hendrell, just to get his take on, for one, this current administration. Whew. Is it bar time yet? Can I have a drink? No, okay. I'm just saying, it's a lot happening right now in these streets. And so I would love to get his take with that. So you guys are in store for a great conversation. Again, thank you so much for those who are just now tuning in with us. Thank you so much for taking 1 hour of your time to tune into the Arrington Gavin Show. Again, I'm your host, your friend, your homie, Arrington Gavin. Look, my friends, do me a favor. Follow us on all social media platforms that we are available on, like Instagram, Blue Sky, X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as subscribe to our Substack. Having a program, for 1 hour, we tend to go over some of the conversations, and we extend it and we push it towards our social medias or like our Substack page. So be sure to follow us on that platform. I truly appreciate it. I want to thank those who are watching us at right now on YouTube. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe. I truly appreciate that. You can also stream us on Rumble, as well as on Goatverse TV. That's right, Goatverse TV. It's a growing independent streaming channel. If you haven't downloaded the app yet, be sure to do so. It is available in the App Store, Google Play Store, Roku, as well as Amazon Fire. And I want to also shout out our listeners, those by way of on the radio airwaves. Shout out to our listeners in the New Orleans area by way of WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about. You can tune to the Arrington Gavin Show Monday through Fridays, weeknights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Also, I'd like to acknowledge our listeners in the Metro Atlanta area by way of WDJY 99.1 FM Straight Talk. You can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show again Monday through Fridays, this time at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. And then, of course, you can tune into the program available on all major podcast platforms. So, my friends, before we get started, we love to do a quick fun fact of the day, just something we love to do before we get going within our conversation. So, being that our guest is representing the state of Tennessee, I figured this would be a good fun fact. Did you all know the reason why Tennessee earned the nickname the Volunteer State? Because of the large number of volunteer soldiers during the war of 1812. So if you're curious, where does the name the Volunteer State come from? Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, my friends, look, please don't go anywhere. We have a great show in tap for you. Again, I have Mr. Hendrell Remus, former chair for the Democratic Party, the Tennessee Democratic Party. So I'm excited to have a conversation with him. Look, my friends, do not go anywhere. You are listening to the Arrington Gavin Show. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks.
Every man has a story to tell. Your ambitions, your achievements, your legacy. Your suit should reflect that story, crafted precisely, designed for impact, and tailored exclusively for you. We work with only the finest fabrics, luxurious wools, silk, linen, and blends from world-renowned mills in Italy, the UK, and India. These fabrics are the foundation of custom suits that exude elegance and stand the test of time. But a suit isn't just about fabric, it's about fit, and it's about confidence, and it all starts with you. When you work with me, you'll receive a personalized consultation, whether in person or over Zoom. Together, we'll explore your vision and discuss your needs. And we're gonna bring your ideas to life. My journey as a designer includes apprenticing under New York-based designer Clavon Leonard, showcasing collections at New York Fashion Week, Algeria Fashion Week, and the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. That experience is what we bring to every suit we create, from weddings to corporate events and everything in between. We specialize in crafting one-of-a-kind suits for life's most significant moments. Dapper Luke has been recognized as one of Baltimore's best menswear in 2023, and I was honored to be one of the 10 designers selected for the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. With over 900 satisfied clients, we proudly serve Virginia Beach and Baltimore, bringing world-class designs to these incredible communities. We don't just make suits, we craft confidence. Your suit will fit your body, your style, and it will tell your story. Book your free online personal consultation today. Visit www.dapperluke.com.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to
And we still in traffic.
Don't look familiar, do I? Not in this seat.
Hey, what's that you listening to?
Here to host today.
Hey, turn it up.
Yeah, this that new Goldverse app. I got you.
So y'all want to know where the goats are? They're off on the sidelines.
Looking for fresh, relevant content wherever you go?
What was the name of that he said?
Introducing Goatverse TV,
Goldverse, that's what it's called.
the free streaming app that brings you the best podcasts, current events, and thought-provoking opinions all in one place. Download it now from the Apple Store or Play Store. In Goats, we trust.
Become a man of distinction with Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Order our scented beard oils and beard balms to help you maintain and grow the perfect beard. Order today. Try our men's care products like the full body exfoliating cleansing bars, body wash, smooth stash, and more. Log on to our website or download our app to place your orders. Rugged Evolution Beard Care. We're your luxury but affordable men's care line. And remember,
rugged is the new smooth.
All right, family, welcome back to the Arrington Gavin Show. I'm your guy, Arrington Gavin. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm honored to have on Mr. Hendrell Remus. Just again, to go back on his resume, Mr. Remus was elected in 2021 as the first Black chair for the Tennessee Democratic Party, reelected in 2023, served 2 terms. He finished out his term, did not seek a re-election, but of course there's so much great things going for him right now. He has a growing business, Get Social. He is the chief executive officer of Get Social, and he has an awesome podcast called Politics Unfiltered with Hendrell Remus. Without further ado, let's bring on our special guest of the evening, the man of the hour, Mr. Hendrell Remus. Mr. Remus, how you doing, boss man?
Arrington, I'm good. What's up, man?
Man, look, so a lot of stuff I would love to share, man. It's just I got my list of things. I'm gonna hope to try and get it all during this program. But for one, just get to get familiar with our audience. Could you give us just a quick background about yourself? Upbringing, go however far you would like to.
Yeah, absolutely. Born and raised in Memphis. Just recently relocated back home to Memphis. Lived in Nashville for about 10 years, working in the private sector, then working in politics. I was the fourth of 8 children, born to a single mom who never graduated from high school. So that kind of drives everything that I'm doing in life, trying to make up for what I inherited at birth. I've got 2 great kids of my own and a beautiful wife. And just trying to be the superhuman, trying to leave a legacy behind.
I know that's right, boss. I know that's right. Well, look, Hendrell, and if it's okay if I call you Hendrell,
yeah, call me Hendrell. That's fine. Definitely don't want to be called Chair.
Chair. I understand. What led you? What was the driving force that led you to politics? That's always kind of like the first question I would like to ask, because you're still very much involved, but you hit a very high position leading a state party. But what how was the foundation of that? What led you into politics?
I was kind of bit by the Obama bug in 2008. That's when I first started getting involved, volunteering, and then in 2012. I actually decided to run for office myself. I was 25, didn't know really a whole lot about politics. I had $1,000 and a whole lot of dreams. I went out and campaigned against a Democratic incumbent in the primary. He had been there at the time 18 years. And I went out campaigning against him, got about 19% of the vote. And I left that election thinking, you know what? If I knew a little bit more about, county party politics and state party politics and how all the inner workings of politics work, maybe I could have won. So I got talked into. So I stayed involved. I started helping out other local candidates who were running for school board and city councils and county commission races, and some of my friends who got elected to the state house and to the state senate in Tennessee. And I tried my luck. I got talked into running for a county commission seat. Okay. Open race, five people in the race, some very credible folks, deputy fire chief, big developer in the city. And I did extremely well in that race. I didn't win, but I did extremely well in that race. I lost by 300 plus votes, I think, but I did really well. And I said, I'm not going to run for office again until I feel like, this is a sure, I can surely win, but I'm going to continue to give and contribute to the community. And I kept doing that. And for me, it was something that I was driven from a young age. I want to try to, I mentioned earlier about my background and being the fourth of 8 children, and my mom never graduating from high school. But my mom was also a victim of domestic violence. We watched her fall victim to domestic violence on almost a weekly basis. Wow. And those things kind of helped to shape like my vision of the world and of society and how government could help contribute to folks' lives. I started my collegiate journey at Lemoyne College in Memphis, small HBCU. And there I got involved pretty heavily, running for class president and running for Mr. Freshman and Mr. Sophomore, all the stuff that you dream.
That man said election. I'm running. I'm running. Sign me up.
All the stuff that you dream of at an HBCU. And I was pretty successful. I became all those things. And in those roles, I was just intertwining myself in the community, whether it was community cleanups or mentoring or volunteering, just always something to want to perfect and better the community that I was living in. But what made me not give up and walk away after losing those elections was just this defining moment that, all the things that I had inherited as a kid, living in a low-income community, attending public schools, is that if we had a government that actually looked out for people in the ways in which it should look out for people, then so many of the pitfalls that folks who lived around me, folks in my family, even my own mom, could have avoided. And that's been the driving force for me. And now today, I think about my own children, because obviously I want a better world for them. I think about my young daughter. I think about my wife. But then I also think about folks like my younger brother, who was once my high school superstar little sister, went off and joined the military, fought in Iraq, became a police officer, was discriminated against because of wanting to be who he was, and just the things that the level of hatred that people face, the barriers that are put up. And I think about all those things, and that's the stuff that kind of drives me into wanting to do this. I worked for a while at Tennessee State University as the director of emergency management, and I met so many young African Americans, so many young Black kids who were in college for the first time, and a lot of them that work study for me and mentored a lot of them, and just seeing what was driving them. And every day I wake up thinking, like, how can I help do a little bit more to make that kid's life better, to make this journey in this world better for them, and that's just what drives me, man.
and that's awesome, because at the end of the day, it show again, yeah, like you said, it's keyword service, active service, caring for others. It's interesting that in 2025 we live in such a it's me, I, a team of me, rather than caring about your neighbors, your brothers and sisters, whatever happened to treat others the way you want to be treated. It's like that's long gone, in my opinion, in my eye view of things. But there's still hope, because there's still a lot of individuals like yourself that still want to serve in some form or fashion. Look, you made history in the state of Tennessee. You were elected the first Black chair for the Tennessee Democratic Party. For one, I want to ask, when you first ran, was the confidence booster already there? Because you mentioned how you ran for so many things in the past. Was that confidence booster saying, oh, I can do this, and then what was your first reaction after winning? I'd love to get your take on that.
Well, it wasn't initially. I wasn't going to do it. I mean, I'll be all honest with you. Initially, I wasn't going to do it. I was actually serving in what they consider an ex officio role on the state party, because I was fairly young. I was in my very early 30s, and I was still considered a young Democrat. So I was serving in that capacity on this for the state party, and I had an opportunity to kind of see how the cycle kind of worked. And we had a very contentious moment in our state party the summer before I decided to run. We had a state representative who was doing Democratic state representative who was caucusing more with the Republicans than he was the Democrats. And there was this defining moment when the party decided that they were going to debonify him, where he couldn't run for office as a Democrat. He'd have to run as an independent or Republican, because that's where he was aligned. And you had all of these, career Democratic establishment elected officials in the state who were rallying to oppose his removal from the party. And I kind of stepped out on the ledge and led the charge to say, in this defining moment, like, where do we want to be as a party? And is this someone who we can count on as a party to help deliver, the votes that we need? So I kind of led the charge to help, to help oust him. I hate to say it, but to help cleanse the party of that person.
Good word, good cover, good word. Way to cover that.
And it just, and it gave me a reputation inside the party. It was that first real moment where I had an opportunity to see that there was an ability to be able to lead our party in a way that I don't think that leadership had been there. And then I had run for office, so I kind of knew politics. I love politics, so I kind of had that passion. But I also had a deep professional background where I had worked in the private sector. I was working in the public sector. I managed hundreds of people, managed millions of dollars. And to me, our party was kind of being ran almost like a social organization, more so than I look at the state party operation as a political business operation. We're in the business of politics, and in that moment, I just think my background was just a perfect match for that. However, I was not going to do it. One of my good friends, who's a state senator now in the state, she was actually going to run for state party chair, and I was going to support her. Then I had a conversation with a broader group of friends who were like, you always help everybody out. Like, you could really crush this. I think you could win it. And then one of my friends has this come to Jesus moment with me. And he's like, you're out in the middle of the ocean and you're drowning. And he's like, the ship, God's only going to send a ship for you so many times before you got to try to ride the back of a whale or a shark. And then I was like, you know what? I think I'll do it. And then my wife just kind of put it over the top for me. She's like, I think you could do it.
That's awesome.
And I went forward. And
That's
it was
awesome.
It was a battle. I mean, it was 10 folks in that election. The heir apparent was this young white guy who had been the state party's treasurer. I mean, he was pretty much just waiting to take the throne. He was like, the poster boy of like what we would expect to be the next chair. And he was after the election, he was extremely gracious and very helpful during my term. But I rose up through the ranks, did the work necessary to get the votes and made the history.
That is interesting because, and again, the first thing that comes to mind, Tennessee has been seen as a pretty red state, right? So how did navigating leading the Democratic Party organization in, again, a largely Republican state, how did you navigate that through your term?
Well, I think, the world gets to see the Tennessee that has, been red since 2010. Reconstruction up until like the Tea Party rise, Democrats actually had pretty much control of the state legislature here in the state. And then every 8 years, the governor's mansion went Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. The first time that didn't happen in Tennessee was in 2018 when we had 2 Republican governors back to back. But before then, it was always Democrat, Republican in the governor's mansion. So, Tennessee's not necessarily, this space that has never experienced what it's like to have Democrats in leadership. Do I think Democrats didn't go far enough when we were in leadership to protect our majorities? Definitely. But being the first black chair in a very red state was extremely interesting because the weight of not just leading the party is on your shoulders, but the weight of also being the first is on your shoulders. And I had this philosophy is that, like, when you're the first in something, you could either set it up for the next person or you could F it up for the next person. And I wanted to make sure that I did everything I could to set it up for the next person. So I tried to redefine what the role looked like, re-energize the role. And then the state party for a long time had pretty much been secondary to Democratic politics in the state. Everybody else was kind of pulling the Democratic, towing the Democratic, rowing the Democratic boat. This organization or that organization. And I tried to remake the state party the convener of all things Democrat. And I think I was pretty successful at that. But, I was under no illusion that I was, walking into a very tough role. We were on the cusp of redistricting. Republicans had the supermajority in the state, so I knew the state would probably get redder. The districts would probably be more gerrymandered. But we put everything we had and just put our head down and did the work necessary. And under my term, after redistricting, obviously I would have loved to pick up more seats in the state, but we didn't lose any of the seats that we controlled in the state. And we were able to have some local wins, which I think is very important. Some local wins. A lot of people probably don't know this. In Memphis, right before the killing of Tyree Nichols by the Memphis Police Department, Memphis had never had a Democratic DA. It always had a Republican DA, and for the first time. Right before that that bad situation happened, we worked hard to elect the first DA in Shelby County, which is the county that Memphis is in. And therefore, we had a Democratic DA to oversee that case. So, when I look back at small victories like that, there's a much bigger impact that some of that stuff had. So,
any and this will be the last question as far as involving your term when you were chair. Anything that you wish could have gotten accomplished, or one things you wish you were like, oh damn, I wish I could have, like, do you ever have any, I don't say like not regret, regrets, anything that's like, oh man, I wish I would have, anything like that comes to mind?
Yeah, I thought a lot about it when I was preparing to leave, and I juggled that, thinking about, should I stick around another term or two and try to accomplish this because I really want this to happen. I would have actually liked to pick up some seats. I mean, I would have liked to pick up some seats in the state legislature. I would have liked to at least broke the Republican supermajority. But I understand that, the work that is necessary isn't always immediate. I think we built a solid foundation to continue to build on. For a long time, the state party in Tennessee, Democratic politics in Tennessee, after we lost control, has been about, after every election, you have a million pieces and everybody's trying to pick up the crumbs. What I tried to do was come in and put a strategy in place that built a long-lasting foundation. Here's where we are this year, and then this election cycle, we know that our targets are here, here, and here. So instead of us trying to pick up the pieces and the crumbs, we should be building another layer to that foundation by achieving some goal in that strategy every cycle. And I think we left the party on a solid footing with being able to do that.
Good. Well, I want to digress from this conversation and move it on to like current day things
Moving
on. We have, in my opinion, I see a fall in both parties more than I think the, on the national media standpoint and, the mainstream media, they will show a lot of the, in my opinion, the fall of the left. After this election, it was a tough loss. And they're seeing a lot of, we raised the most money in this, we did this. And it's the back and forth. Now you're seeing, again, I mentioned about the disconnect within the own party. And I would say there's a huge disconnect in the Republican Party. There is no, in my opinion, there is no such thing as a Republican Party. You have MAGA. You got the separation between MAGA and the Republican Party.
Yeah, but they've got the power.
They do. You're right. You're absolutely right on that one. You're right. They have. You're absolutely right. On the left, you have the progressives, moderates. You have a disconnect in the left. If you say we're the chair, anything you would want to say, okay, look, I think this is the route we should be doing, or do you think the Democratic Party currently is doing what's right? I think recently they just removed the two vice chairs, Malcolm Kenyatta and David Hogg. That was especially David Hogg kind of shook in the table a little bit, by announcing he was going to raise, not raise, but he was going to put in $20 million to really challengers in safe blue states, where it's like, okay, we're going to invest in the safe seats, the seats that we're already familiar with. I'm going to invest in those challengers. That really ticked off a lot of Democrats. I mean, what's your take just right now, how the party's looking for, at least for the Democratic Party?
Well, thankfully I can speak a lot more openly than I could 6 months ago. Look, there are some internal struggles that I think, Democratic parties in states all across the country have got to wrangle with. Some of our allies in the Democratic Party have got to wrangle with. Look, I oversaw a state party. I know how intricate and sensitive touching on certain subjects are when you're inside of the bubble, where you can't really question a whole lot, where you can't really take a too harsh of a public stance on some of the issues and some of the places where we want to be, because you're not just speaking for yourself, you're speaking for an organization, and it's almost like a mini democracy. Once we decide and vote that we're going this direction, then everybody wants to sing. We need to all be singing the same song, maybe from sheet of music, but we all need to be singing the same song.
Mm-hmm.
After you lose and you're not in power anymore, that becomes a little bit more difficult to do, because now everybody wants to know who was off key and what pitch they were
that
singing.
choir director stop and be like, hold up.
and for us, that's losing the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the choir director's exit, stage left. And now we're trying to figure out how do we get back on the same sheet of music. I know the new DNC chair very well, Ken Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've got a great chair at the helm. The thing that the party is going to have to wrangle with itself is, you know, trying to determine, do we want to be this perfect vessel of ideological beliefs, or are we going to be a big tent that doesn't just accept everything, but that has a broader acceptance of not just diversity in people, but diversity in views. Now, when that diversity in views collides with policy and legislative agendas, you know, that's a different story. But I think people can have a different view, can have different views, but have the same legislative agenda. And I think that's where we are missing the market. We have all of these views. We care about so many things, but our legislative goals are not aligned. But then I think we're also in this space as a Democratic Party where we have to make sure that we really truly know the pulse of where society is. Because being inside of the party, I can tell you this. A lot of times I felt like, even me in our state party in Tennessee, I felt like we did more of trying to tell people how they felt, or trying to tell people what issues should have mattered the most to them, instead of just shutting the hell up and listening to what people were saying. This is what's making me tick right now. If we would have done more of that, I think we would have been in a much different place. But, you know, lessons learned. One of the things I told the chair when I was leaving is that you can't always count on the consultants to be right. Sometimes you really do have to get out there, and you have to say, I got to talk to some folks who are disconnected from politics, and I've got to really see where real people are. Because if you don't, then you're going to be telling people how they should feel, what they should feel, and what issues should be important to them, instead of knowing this is really where my community is. This is where our society is. When people run for office, I think the greatest mistake some politicians make is that they should be representing the people who are sending them somewhere, send them to that seat. It too often, to me, it feels like we are trying to change the perceptions of the folks who we should be just representing. If you don't feel as if the populace that must vote for you, the constituents who must vote for you, if you feel like they're in the wrong space when it comes to ideological or political agenda, then obviously you're probably not the right person, because you should be reflective of the people who you're representing, because you're going to be representing that viewpoint. If you don't align with their viewpoints, then you probably shouldn't be the person who's running for office to represent them. And I think that's what we're falling into in a lot of spaces. When you have these Democrats and Trump, these Democrats who won in Trump districts, or in states where Vice President Harris lost but Donald Trump won, but you have Democratic senators who won, is because they had more of a pulse on what the folks in their state wanted and needed. Their messaging, their policy priorities were more aligned with the people who were asking them to represent them, versus them trying to change those viewpoints. So, you know,
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with that. I've shared here on this program many a times, and just from a personal view, because a lot of my listeners are those who are kind of starting up, having more of an understanding of what's going on. And the first thing they say is, it seems fake. It doesn't seem relatable. It doesn't seem, I mean, especially when it comes to campaign season, I feel as though I'll use, like, say, social media, for example. People try to be like a forced upon influencer. They force the influencers on themselves so much rather than like you realize your authentic self that is more relatable actually is what people enjoy seeing. Like a friend of mine was like, I was cooking and my husband had it on TikTok and I like my dog peed right here. And I'm like, and that video went viral. But when I'm trying to do that, it's like it's be authentic. I think a lot of voters, for one is difficult because again, I guess society has it where we don't know who to trust, right? We don't know which side is being honest in this point. Now, for me, I can say there's more that's being way more trustworthy than the opposing side because it's funny. It's funny for me. I'll talk more about the right a little later on because I'm trying to hold my tongue, man. I'm a Christian man, but sometimes the tongue just gets to loosen. You know what I mean? It's a lot. But I go after the Democrats not really on the dislike, but it's like I want to see them do good. Yeah. I really do. I can't just the fact that we're in a second Trump term still blows my mind. And it's like we're witnessing all of this, the more divisiveness. Something's wrong when you start. I mean, I'm from a person that doesn't agree with Rand Paul at all. When there's points I agree with it, I'm like, okay, something is up here. I'm agreeing with Rand Paul right now. And so it's a lot happening.
Especially when we are the party. I mean, the Democrats, we're the party that actually has the policies that will benefit people. I try to since leaving the infrastructure of the party. To me, it's like one party is hell bent on shredding our democracy and just powering through whatever they believe is right. Mm. We are the opposite. We've got good intentions, but not enough fight. I don't believe. And we've had good policies. I mean, some of the policies and initiatives that should have been at the forefront of the Biden-Harris administration, had we been able to get some of that stuff done, I mean, I think we'd be in not only a much different country, but Republicans would be in a much different place trying to figure out if their party was ever going to rebound ever again. But
you mentioned toughness, and for me, I personally didn't see anything quite wrong with David Hogg's approach, in my opinion. For one, and I'm not trying to be ageist here, I'm an advocate for the term limits. I personally think there's way too many old folks still in office. I mean, their mind can be very sharp, but I just think as far as the ideas is concerned, like, please start planning for, the next in line. And just, I can't fathom seeing, we have folks that are 86 years old. We have folks being wheelchaired in to, it's a lot. But David Hogg had mentioned, folks that he really respects, that he can see as a leader. Jasmine Crockett, right? Now, Jasmine Crockett is very viral because Jasmine Crockett is somebody that doesn't hold her tongue. She matches right at face to face when it comes to the, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, right? The Hawleys, the you name it. She's always matching them because at least you're seeing a form of like, well, at least she's putting up a fight. I look at Trump's first State of the Union address, and Congressman Al Green stood up. He said something. They sent him on out. Nobody in the Democratic Party followed behind. It's like they left the man behind, and he, in my opinion, he was in the right because I don't know. I can remember when Obama had his first State of the Union. Somebody said you lied, and I didn't see Nancy Pelosi hit that gavel and said, no, you got, like, it's the little things like that that really just, now it's the time you can't.
It's like my grandma used to say with Congresswoman Crockett. It's like, it's that saying, you've met your match. You've met your match. And usually when people meet their match, they tend to shut the hell up after a while because they don't want to have to come toe to toe with that anymore. Look, the David Hogg thing, I get it. Look, I started this conversation saying I ran for office the very first time because the person who was my state representative had been there 18 years. I know that was too long. But I also understand. So I get it. I think there needs to be a real reckoning with, the longevity of the folks who are in office, because I believe that plays a lot into if those folks have their own they're set in ways, they're set in how they navigate the political space. They're set in their ideals because they're so used to just being reelected and going back to those offices. But I also understand, where the party is on that issue because I've been there. I mean, I know that the party has a neutrality clause, and it's like you deciding to be a part of an organization. If I decide to be a part of this organization, here are the rules for this organization. I can't go in and try to blow the organization up. Obviously, if I want to change the rules in the organization, then I should probably try to do a little bit more strategically, where I go through the processes of trying to change the rules versus going out publicly and creating an organization to try to blow up the organization from the inside out, outside in, all at the same time. I think he could have been a little bit more strategic about wanting to be more involved and learning how the actual party operation worked. And maybe he could have used the internal processes to figure out some ways for us to, hold some different standards when it came to who ran in the Democratic primaries across the country. I wholeheartedly, I think the party made the right decision. The party followed its bylaws, it's followed its rules. It's not just one person saying, he's got to go or this person's got to go. It's an entire party voting and using a democratic process to say, this is not how we do business. This is not how we want to do business. And let me also correct. He wasn't kicked out because of because of the organization, because of starting the organization, which I think is terrible. I think it was a terrible approach. There was a procedural hurdle that happened during the elections of those vice chairs. I was there in the audience when those elections were happening. So the grievance or the complaint that was filed by Kaylin Free from Oklahoma, I believe, was justifiable. I mean, she was absolutely right in filing that. Now, David has decided to leave because he's not going to run for that vice chair seat again. Leaves Malcolm Kenyatta in place and then calls for an election for a female vice chair. Yeah. So I think there's some other women who will run for that race. So he wasn't necessarily kicked out. He just happened to have this unfortunate situation play out at the same time that this complaint or grievance had been filed, because I think it was filed before he even started the organization or went public about it.
Gotcha. Let me see. I'm looking at my time here. Let's take a quick breather. When we come back, I do have to talk very briefly about. I want to hear your take on this second Trump term. I'm gonna let us decompress because I know it's gonna be a lot to share on that, and then I want to leave the floor for your new podcast, Politics Unfiltered, which I am a true fan of. So again, y'all, look, we are. I'm joining with Mr. Hendrell, Remus, former chair of the Tennessee Democratic Party. Look, you're listening to the Arrington Gavin Show. Don't go anywhere. We have a lot more show for you here in store. We'll be right back.
Jazarian Learning Institute, LLC, is a hybrid learning center that strives to educate adults and children in all fields. During the day, we offer programs that are focused on developing students from pre-K to 12th grade, which includes tutoring, homeschool co-op, an after-school program, SAT, ACT prep, and many more engaging academic programs. Our adult education programs include workforce trainings, GED prep, life coaching, various seminars, and many more. Our vision is to train and educate in a positive way that will lead to a positive change in the world, one person at a time. For more information, visit us online at JazarianLearningInstitute.com or call us at 757-208-7407.
All righty, my friends, welcome back to the Arrington Gavin Show. I'm your host, Arrington Gavin. Joining me is Mr. Hendrell Remus. We're having such a great conversation. Look, I already see it right now. Would love to have him back on because I'm, like I said, I can talk with this guy for hours. Hendrell, I want your take on this this second Trump term, this administration. What has been just your if you can critique this, what would be your grade? What grade would you give this current administration?
Is there anything lower than an F? F minus. I look. It hadn't even been a year.
It has not been a year.
We are grabbing the seatbelt, hoping not to get thrown out of the car. Everything that we could have imagined, everything that we were out trying to warn folks about in the primary and the general election, everything we were out here trying to tell people in 2024 that was possible if he came back to power. It's like he just pulled up a thing and said, I guess I'll do that, since they were trying to warn people about it. I mean, I think we're in store for a very, very long, 3.5 years left, very, very long 3.5 years ahead of us. Chaos all around us every single day.
Absolutely.
It's like every day for the last 6 months, every day for the last 5 or 6 months has been something. Every single
every day. I'm trying to look up my past notes I shared on a previous show, just the comparisons of amount of protests that occurred under different administrations, and it's like you barely could count a small you can barely count under the Obama years. And I mean, the Trump years has these massive days after days. We've seen it in every single city. I mean, it's truly. And then when I hear that, he's putting an end to this division, he's bringing America. In what way? Like, I don't see it.
I actually think, like what is happening in California right now is like the opening stages to something that's probably going to create a level of unrest that we'll see until his term ends. I don't. People have been laying low for the last 6 months. I think the sleeping giant is slowly waking up, finger by finger, toe by toe, arm by arm. And the more it wakes up, the more hell will break loose in the country.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And by the time our listeners and viewers tune into this program, we would have this military parade, and this is no disrespect at all towards our military. I mean, Cole Harley, this is nothing towards celebrating. I believe it's the 250-year anniversary of the Army, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But the fact is, okay, it's on his birthday. They showed clips of the rehearsal. I mean, this is no different from what you see in North Korea, in Russia. I mean, Trump feeds off the attention every time. I always like to hear little key points whenever he's discussing. They should thank me. They should thank me. Like, since when is it all about one individual? That's just it sickens me, the fact that this is who America.
And I'm eager to see in this parade if those images of him that they've put on federal buildings in Washington, D.C. are going to be draped all down the street. I'm eager to see that, because look, we have someone who wants to be glorified by the American people. He doesn't really want to lead. He wants to go out and he wants to be glorified and held up and lifted up to the highest levels that some person can be lifted up to. He wants to be. He wants
removing names off ships.
Well,
end of diversity of everything.
I don't want to say that he wants to be the guy in North Korea, and I don't want to say he wants to be the guy in Russia, but he's teetering very close to wanting to be some form of that infamy that they
knocking
have
on that door.
in their countries. And I think during that military parade, because he's already baiting people. He's a master at baiting people. He goes on television. He says, if you show up to protest these military parades, if you're going to have these no king protests, if you show up to protest in these parades, you're going to be met with force unlike anything you've seen. He's pretty much telling people, come on out so that we can put on a show, so that I can direct our military to violate the Constitution by harming and detaining American citizens on American soil. And I think that my fingers are crossed. I'm trying to be hopeful, but I hope that we don't see a split screen of a military parade taking place on the streets of Washington, D.C., and on the other side of that screen, protests from all over the country that looks like regimes trying to silence people in other countries. That's what I'm hoping we don't see. But this, I mean, this first 6 months has been terrible. I mean, it's been terrible. Nothing good. If I ask someone in the MAGA movement, if I ask a Republican or conservative, what good has really come out of the last 6 months, they couldn't truthfully, honestly say this has been the best thing that has happened.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, we see a lot of folks in the right that is in disagreement with that parade, and just a lot of, the big beautiful bill and the whole, and there's so many things I can share with you, Hendrell, and this might have to be a part 2 conversation if you don't mind. But I really want to,
or maybe I've got to bring you on my podcast.
There you go. You heard it here, folks. Speaking of your podcast, I would love to share about your new podcast, Politics Unfiltered, which is, growing in subscribers. Like I said, I'm a true fan. I tune in every time. Your most recent show, entitled For Richer or For Poorer, Chasing the American Dream, I thought was a spot on episode, because you had almost a round table. I think it was about 4 people of all different tax brackets, income brackets, age group, and it was so dope. Can you please share with us just the genesis of this podcast?
Well, being on a leash, pretty much being on a leash for the last 4 years, I was pretty vocal before I became state party chair. And then all of that had to be I had to have a lot more discipline. And being on a leash for the last 4 years, once I was off of it, I said, I want to say the things that I've been wanting to say over the last 4 years, because I had an opportunity to see terrible politicians on the Republican side, but I also had a chance to, have to work with and deal with some paperweights on the Democratic side too, who left a taste in my mouth about politicians in totality that I would have liked to not have, especially not from Democrats. So my goal with the podcast is to just, be an open book about, what actually happens inside of Democratic politics, but to also kind of hold both sides accountable, especially the Democratic side, because sometimes we need a reality check. And if we're not giving our own folks a reality check, then they're going to be living in la la land, and we're going to continue getting defeated. So my goal is to just give people an opportunity to listen to something from someone who has been inside, who kind of still has his thumb on the pulse of what's happening politically, but try to do it in a real way. Cut through all the talking points, cut through all the noise and the got yous that one side might have, and just be realistic. Because if the Republicans got something that's good, that's going to make America great, then truly we should be working to try to achieve it. If the Democrats have something that's great, that's going to make this country absolutely great, then we should be gravitating towards it. But until people know that they also have a responsibility in holding these elected officials accountable, so that they do understand what's happening, why it's happening, and then who's driving a lot of it. Because most of the stuff we see happening, politicians are casting votes on it, but you've got all these outside organizations like ALEC and Heritage Foundation and all these places actually creating this legislation. Them and their staffs are creating this legislation, and then politicians and their staffs are never reading it, are never seeing it, just casting a vote on it. So just
I ain't saying no names, Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I'm just saying,
just creating a space where I can vent in a way that people can say, you know what, I was thinking the same thing, but people can also be informed about what's really happening, because there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of thoughts that people just don't know why this is happening, or why we're dealing with this, or why this is a news story. So just putting it in the most simplest of terms and putting some flavor to it, and then giving people a voice too, giving regular people a voice in that conversation, because that's where I think as a party we too often miss the mark. We care about so much that we sometimes forget to listen to people. Listen to people. Get off of the polls, get off of the consultants, and just get out there and listen to people. So that's why I did that last episode.
So important, and it was a great episode. And again, like you said, giving a voice from the people, talking to them up front and center, because they feel like their voices are not being heard. They feel like a lot of the promises that's being brought to them are never being met, and folks are tired. I mean, we're in a very impatient time right now. Yeah. Government cuts. Like I'm reside in the state. I'm a Virginia guy. We are a military town, right? A lot of our workers are federal workers. Government cuts left and right. Folks are losing jobs. It's disgusting, man. But how can folks tune into and tune into your podcast?
Well, definitely. They can find me on social media at Hendrell Remus. The link to the podcast is on all of my social media channels, but on all the major podcast streaming platforms, Politics Unfiltered is the name of the show. We drop new episodes every Monday. On YouTube, Politics Unfiltered is the name of the show. Episodes will be there as well. But most importantly, if they want to go over to the website, politicsunfilteredpod.com. They can also find me there, send questions or topics that they'd like to see me address on the show. And I'm trying to create somewhat of a community that's just not my podcast, but it feels like a podcast that our listeners own as well and have some input into.
Awesome. Well, it's needed, brother. It is so needed. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk here on the show. If you don't mind, I wouldn't mind chopping up with you just for a couple minutes after this show, if you don't mind. But again, I want to thank you and just the voice you've brought, to the table, right? I know our listeners really appreciate it. And please don't be a stranger to the show. We'd love to have you back and get your take on some things and continue to support your show. Again, Mr. Hendrell Remus, ladies and gents, former chair of the Tennessee Democratic Party, also host of Politics Unfiltered. Please be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel and all that good stuff. So, brother, don't go anywhere, my friend. But thank you again for taking the time and for the conversation as well. Ladies and gents, like I said, man, I don't mess around when it comes to conversations. It is so needed. I consider myself a conversationalist. It's needed. We learn so much amongst conversation. We're not getting this on a regular basis. So I hope y'all enjoyed this episode, this convo. Again, I want to thank Mr. Hendrell Remus for coming on the program. Please do me a favor. Be sure to subscribe to his podcast. Follow Politics Unfiltered with Hendrell Remus. Great podcast. I'm telling you, I'm a subscriber. I'm a fan. It's a dope show. So please be sure to support. And as always, my friends, look, stay informed. Stay safe out there. Please continue to read up, do your research, keep your state elected officials held accountable. We're in it's primary season right now. Well, primary is almost over, but we have midterms. We have some big elections coming up. So please be aware of what's happening. Please do not be distracted with because there's a lot of distractions happening in these streets too. Please don't be distracted. Just continue to keep it forward, stay focused, stay informed, and continue to tune into the Arrington Gavin show, my friends. Yeah, that's all I got for you. So until next time, we'll continue to bring great conversation and zero sugarcoating. That's what we do here on the Arrington Gavin show. Peace and blessings, y'all. Y'all take care, and I will talk to y'all soon for another great episode of the Arrington Gavin show. I'm out.
That's it for tonight on the Arrington Gavin Show. Thanks for tapping in and keeping the conversation alive. Don't forget, stay connected with us on all platforms. Follow at Arrington Gavin on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X, and subscribe to the official Substack for exclusive takes and deep dives you won't get anywhere else. We're here every weeknight, same time, same energy, same real talk. Until next time, stay bold, stay sharp, and stay true. That's what we do on the Arrington Gavin Show. Peace.